All right, I've been slacking off a little bit and I've fallen behind, but we're going to make up for that tonight. I'm going to be doing 2 episodes of Dexter Resurrection. We are covering episodes 5 and 6, Murder Horny, and Cats and Mouse. So stay tuned. Let's head back to Dexter. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. Tonight, we are talking more Dexter Resurrection. Now, we are doing a double feature tonight because I am a little bit behind. So, we're going to be talking episode 5, Murder Horny, and episode 6, Cats and Mouse. Going to be a little bit of a longer episode. Going to try to keep it as tight as possible, but just be warned here. And I'm going to make it easy for you to follow along in case you're watching this in pieces or listening, whatever. We're going to do Murder Horny first, give you a clean cut, and then we're going to head on to Cats and Mouse. Now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, no matter where you are checking this episode out. Folks, we are covering Dexter Resurrection all season long. We only have a handful of episodes left. I do not want you to miss that coverage, so make sure to subscribe wherever you are tuning in. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get started with our first of 2 episodes tonight, episode 5, Murder Horny. Now let's start this by looking into our favorite character, Dexter. Dexter is finally reconnecting with Harrison on a genuine basis, which is refreshing because we didn't get a lot of that in New Blood. A lot of it is still so much shrouded in secrecy, and it's kind of like this is the Dexter that Harrison would have loved to have experienced, maybe back to the way he was in Miami. So love the fact that they're finally getting to reconnect. Dexter is finally understanding that Harrison is just not like him, and he's got to that point to where he's okay with that. Again, in New Blood, a lot of it was Dexter just not understanding and trying to shape Harrison the same way that Harry ultimately shaped him. But as we've seen with that, and we've seen over the course of the season here of Dexter Resurrection, that is just not Harrison. He doesn't have the desires like that. Most of the time when he's getting these dark urges, they're tied to him doing something just, doing something right. So he can't live the same life that Dexter is doing, and Dexter has to understand that for the two of them to really have a relationship. So it's great to see that Dexter does truly understand, and he's moving away from trying to mold Harrison into his own image, and more so just trying to be there to support him for whatever Harrison needs. Continuing on his connection with Mia, Dexter and Mia are growing closer. Obviously, there is a mutual attraction that Dexter has yet to act on, even though Mia has definitely been putting it out there. But unfortunately for Dexter, in his continual search for trying to find other people who have the same wants, the same desires, and the same fuel, passion that he does, unfortunately, Mia is just not going to be that person, as Dexter finds out that Mia herself doesn't really abide by a code. It's something that the press has invented in order to put some kind of answer as to why these killings are happening. But Mia is a psychopath just like anybody else at Prater's dinner or any of the other numerous serial killers that Dexter has killed in his past. And that means that she's got a date with Dexter's blades as well. But showing a bit of restraint here and seeking to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, after Mia tries to push Dexter into going on to do a kill together, Dexter obviously can't let that happen because then he'd be killing somebody innocent, he'd blow his whole cover. Dexter instead decides to plant Ryan Foster's watch that he got from Harrison into Mia's trophy case and calls the police when Mia's with another potential victim. Mia's arrested, and Ryan Foster's death is now blamed on Lady Vengeance, immediately clearing Harrison from a direct suspicion at this point and making it harder for Detectives Wallace and Olivia to actually prove that Harrison was the one behind it. Now, as for Harrison, while of course he was not initially thrilled about Dexter's reemergence, it's clear Harrison needs somebody that he can actually open up to. He needs some guidance. He needs a bit of a helping hand. Back in New Blood, they didn't have the time, they didn't have the space, and they didn't have the openness that they could truly be, not just with each other, but with all the people around them. So much is shrouded in secrecy. And right now, the two of them get to live a lot more free, a lot more open with who they are and what they kind of want from each other. And it was nice to see Harrison finally be able to just breathe. because this entire season we've been seeing what Ryan Foster's murder has been weighing heavy on him. Dexter's murder or attempted murder have been weighing on him as well too, and the fact that Harrison wants to be such a good guy, and because of these actions he's taken, he's holding so much of this so deep. And yeah, he did it. There's no question about that. He committed these acts. But following this character along, we know that it's not from the same selfish, dark place that Dexter and all these other killers have. And so we want Harrison to be able to get a little bit of relief here. And it looks like with Dexter being back in his life and supporting him and letting him know he doesn't need to be who Dexter is, that Harrison's finally getting that relief. So it's great to see that Harrison looks like he might be able to finally move on from what we've been seeing in this first part of the season into something completely different. I'm curious to see what Harrison really looks like when he has some resemblance of happiness in his life. Now, as for the cops, in the previous episode, Harrison tried to call up Detective Wallace because he was about to confess to killing Ryan Foster, wasn't able to get a hold of her, and this one Dexter stopped him at the police station. Of course, Detective Wallace tries to get back in touch with Harrison, is curious why he was calling in the first place, and assumes that Harrison was probably coming in to confess as well. The two of them end up having a meeting, and Harrison has to basically turn the conversation to where he was wanting to actually talk to Ryan Foster's attempted rape victim as a way of trying to apologize for not stopping it in the first place. Now, again, Wallace is honing in on all of this. She very much still thinks that Harrison is the prime suspect. She's looking for more evidence to really make her case, so you can understand the frustration that her and Olivia both have when Mia is set up as Ryan Foster's killer. It doesn't make sense that things are not linking up the way that they should be. Just no understanding here of how that is. And that goes for Batista as well too, because remember, Batista is positive that Harrison is behind Ryan Foster's death, and that means that proves that Dexter is the Bay Harbor Butcher because he learned that from him. But again, with Mia now being accused, being framed here for Foster's death, even Batista knows that the fix is in, and none of this is adding up. So this means that all of these cops are about to start working together to figure out what's truly at stake here. Now, as for the villains, we've been trying to get more information about Prater this season because it does seem really interesting that Prater's not a killer himself, but he has all these killers around him. And, you know, I've theorized, is this the Jordan Chase situation where Prater's just really, really good at manipulation, and there are going to be some terrible things in his past that we're going to have to learn about here? We see an interview that he gets to do, and it kind of sheds a little bit of light here about how Prater lost his parents in a car accident, and that might have had led somehow to his obsession with death and all these people and these things that surround death as well too. But it's not exactly direct answers. We still have a number of episodes left, so I think more about Prater is going to be peeled back. Obviously, he's going to have to play a big central role here in all of this coming together, but I just don't know what that role is yet. Also, what had to be revealed is that him and Charlie are not friends. There is not a fondness there from Prater over to Charlie's side. That is very much his employee. And this feeds into what I was saying a few weeks back, to where I do think that Charlie is somehow going to play a hand in either dispatching Prater at the end of this season, or somehow turning Prater over to the police, which other than harboring fugitives, I don't really know what else that would be. And I think she'd be on the line for that as well too. But I do feel Charlie is going to play a very, very distinct role in Prater's downfall by the end of this season. She's clearly still playing such a big role in keeping everybody in line as she goes to visit Mia in prison, just to make sure that she's going to hold up by her end of the bargain. And you do see a bit of concern on Charlie's face that maybe there is some kind of connection between her and Mia that we're not aware of. But Mia makes it very clear she has no plans of asking for more money, for breaking the rules. She's going to stay in line with the deal that was set up in the first place. And Charlie all but implies that they're going to get Mia out of there sooner than later. So that makes things exciting for the back half of this, because Mia doesn't know that Dexter set her up. And at some point when she does learn that information, there's gonna be hell to pay. Also, what an absolute idiot that Dexter is for planting Ryan Foster's watch. Dexter has made some stupid ass decisions over the entirety of the Dexter franchise, and this is legitimately in the top 3. I say that because we all know, just like Batista, Wallace, and Olivia know, that there's no way that Mia was involved with Ryan Foster's death. Now, unless Mia ends up dead, which is not going to happen here, spoiler alert, but unless Mia were to end up dead, that means that that watch is going to get back to Harrison. Forget Dexter. This is going to link things to Harrison and put Harrison right in the purview of a lot of very, very bad people. It wasn't smart. It wasn't thinking. Dexter should have just destroyed that watch because there wasn't any hard evidence on Harrison. It's still all circumstantial, regardless of what Batista and the NYPD think that they ultimately have. This will cause an issue before the season is done. Mark my words on that, y'all. This is where you're going to want to stop right now if you're not trying to get both episodes. We're going to move on to episode 6, Cats and Mouse. So Dexter and Harrison attend a funeral for Blessing's past mother, Prudence, and it's at this funeral to where Blessing reveals to Dexter that back in his childhood, he was a child soldier for the Revolutionary United Front in Sierra Leone. Very interesting information to offer, and it allows Dexter and Blessing to like connect on a level of shared trauma. But a little bit later, I'm gonna talk about something that I think that piece of information might correspond to as well here with that. The killers reconvene with Prater, and this is when Dexter decides to set his sight on Gareth, the Gemini killer, the top of the FBI's most wanted list. We have not got much information from him this season. Dexter is stalking Gareth throughout the day, and surprisingly enough, Gareth ends up in Dexter's apartment when Dexter is distracted. Now we know what's gonna happen. Dexter ends up tricking Gareth and ultimately killing him, but to Dexter and the collective audience's shock and surprise here, when Dexter is invited to a private trip with Prater and our remaining guests, we see Gareth show up to leave on this trip as well, bringing into clear view the name, the Gemini Killer. Because if you don't know what Gemini is, it's a twin. Now, as for Harrison, Harrison is actually finally considering what he wants to do in his life. If we think back to what Harrison's been dealing with over the last 20 years or so, he only just reconnected with Dexter. He had Hannah in his life for so long, and I think being on the run and being out of the States and then coming back and going from place to place to place to place, Harrison probably didn't think a lot about what he actually wants in life outside of finding his father. And now that Dexter's back in his life and the two of them are building this positive connection that they didn't have back in New Blood, Harrison can actually think about something real, like, does he want to go to school? What kind of job does he actually want to do? And it's disheartening when we see him throw that, college brochure into the trash, but it's nice to see at least that he's starting to consider it. He's still dealing, obviously, with that darkness inside him. He goes and watches his coworker Elsa's son again, and when the landlord shows up, has a vision of killing this landlord for not fixing something in Elsa's apartment that desperately needs to be done. Harrison is still clearly dealing with how to handle this darkness when it comes up, but having Dexter in his life, he's able to talk to him about it, and Dexter's able to reiterate to him that while Dexter is a completely different animal and he has to handle these urges in a different way, Harrison is very much more like Deb. And because of that, he has that sense of justice, and he's gonna go out there and make the world better. And these are things that Harrison has so needed to hear for a while. Like, it was so heartwarming to get this, because we know that Harrison's been needing that, and we know that Dexter has probably felt that he doesn't know the right words to say at all, and all these things he's telling Harrison were right on the money. They were the things that he absolutely needed to be hearing. It's some great bonding that the two of them have. I'm excited to see what this means for Harrison, what he's ultimately going to get for himself here as we keep on going with Resurrection. Finally, with our cops, Batista connects with detectives Wallace and Olivia to share with them the information about Harrison's involvement in Ryan Foster's death and how that links it back to Dexter, who is actually the Bay Harbor Butcher, basically revealing all the information that Dexter probably doesn't want out there at all. And it's worrisome because when Batista has that information by himself, then we still can float the idea of Batista not taking that info anywhere. You know, whether that means he's bribed, he's killed, he decides to go back to Miami and just drop it, whatever the case is, him keeping that information to himself means that he has not pushed himself into like a path that can only lead one or two specific ways. By involving Olivia and Wallace into this information that he has, though, we are hard steering Batista into a very specific pathway to where I don't want him to die, but I don't know how he's going to get himself out of it at this point, regardless of what Wallace and Olivia think. And the three of them don't know what to think right now, as when they go to question Mia in jail, turns out Mia has apparently killed herself. Now, of course, she hasn't actually killed herself, because as we see, the guard that's taking her pulse, checking on her, is a guard that Charlie paid some money to earlier on in the episode, which we have to assume is a way to get her out of prison. None of this is being fueled, again, by having any suspicion on Dexter, but it was clear that Prater told her that this needed to be handled, and because Mia's not breaking the rules, makes more sense to break her out than it does just to have her killed. So Mia is going to show back up sooner than later at a certain point, but for now, while she's still dead, all signs have the Ryan Foster murder pointed to her firmly and not over to Harrison. So I'm curious what this is going to mean for Batista and our NYPD detectives and how they're going to get this case turned back over. All roads are converging here in the next few episodes, it seems, y'all. Now, there's been a lot of talk of this serial killer, the New York Ripper, this season on the show. You know, Detective Wallace had been investigating the Ripper, wasn't able to catch them, and then it's been brought up, whether it's been Prater and around the other killers there, just in the news, whatever the case is. And the fact that it keeps getting brought up and that the Ripper is still at large lets us know that this is going to be a character that is going to show up, whether it's somebody we've already been watching or somebody that's going to be positioned as the big bad of season 2 of Dexter Resurrection. Now, I think that a lot of folks could say that there's probably 3 prime suspects for that. One of the detectives makes a lot of sense, because Wallace couldn't catch the New York Ripper, so what's to say that she's not the Ripper herself, or that her partner could be the Ripper and just using his connections as an NYPD detective to cover his own tracks. Prater or Charlie makes a lot of sense as well too, because Prater we have not seen do anything violent as of yet, but learning more about what happened to his parents as a kid gives a possible motive for him having this connection with death and maybe one to experience it himself. Maybe after being around killers for a while, he decided to take bits and pieces from all of them to become the New York Ripper. Not likely, but it's a chance. Charlie has an aversion to serial killers, but maybe that aversion is because she doesn't think any of them are as talented as she is as the New York Ripper. Again, very, very unlikely, but it's still something we have to consider. But the one person, and I said we get back to this, who makes a lot more sense could be the Ripper, Blessings Kamara. Shows up into Dexter's life as a Eurocar driver. Everything seems nice, got a great family, is friends with another serial killer. Things should be good, right? But it's that mention again about being a child soldier in the Revolutionary United Front that kind of calls into question why provide that information. Yes, it allows him and Dexter to commiserate on the shit that they've been through in their lives as kids. Totally get that. But at the same time, you can't help but think that this is a person who used to see atrocities. And we're talking like the Skinner back in, what was that, season 3? With Miguel Prado? Like, this is something the Skinner went through as well, too. A number of other killers that Dexter has been around that have seen this kind of thing, and they've turned into a killer themselves. Kind of seems like that's setting up for Blessing to really be the person that's running around New York at large. I'm curious to see how that's going to be revealed. What do y'all think? Do you think Blessing is the New York Ripper? Let me know in the comment section. Now, there is so much going on in Dexter Resurrection right now. This show is great. It is fulfilling everything that I've needed to fulfill on my 5 needs right now. I'm loving it so much. I think the only thing that would make this perfect right now is an appearance from Jennifer Carpenter before the season is done. I still think we're gonna get it, but we'll see with that, y'all. Let me know what your thoughts are with this right now. We got another new episode. Episode 8 will be premiering tomorrow on August 22nd on Paramount Plus, so you'll be able to check that out. We're going to still keep up with it. Next week, I'll probably actually do another double feature just so we're caught up in time for the last couple of episodes, because I want to make sure I'm hitting that live. So make sure you are subscribed to my channel, as that's the best way to stay up with my coverage of Dexter Resurrection, as well as other reviews and news and things I have up here, including this week. We've talked Lost Boys, we have talked Alien Earth, we're going to be talking some Fright Night here, and I got a lot of more fun stuff coming up for you as well. So get subscribed to my Linktree at linktr.ee/T-Scary-Movie. If you get subscribed, that's going to be access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms for the audio-only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, my TikTok page for short horror content including movie news, movie premieres, and movie reviews, my Twitch page for horror gaming, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, y'all. Hit that subscribe button. I got a lot of great stuff coming up over the next few days, including reviews of Fright Night, of Borderline. You don't want to miss any of that? That is going to do it for me tonight, though, y'all. I appreciate you tuning in. My name is T. We're talking scary movies. Stay scared.